Hi everyone, it's Margaret with Creative Stamping with Margaret. Thought I would pop on here and do a quick YouTube live. Apologize for the pause at the beginning. This is something new that I'm trying, and I thought I would see how it worked out. But it's going to be a pretty quick video for you. So let's get started. Today's video features the Terrific Toadstools, and I just thought this set was just adorable. And this designer series paper is one that is in the Sale-a-bration brochure, the Toadstool Gardens. It actually coordinates with the Terrific Toadstools. And I just love all of the bright colors. And in this paper, there's so much you can use it for in creating a lot of different projects. And these little toadstools are so whimsical, just very cute. I love the colors. But let me set that to the side. And this is the card that I'm going to be showcasing. And it just, a popping up to say hi. And of course, we're going to use this Terrific Toadstools Bundle. The inks that we're going to need for this project, we're using Smoky Slate, Melon Mambo, Pumpkin Pie, and Early Espresso. And then for our paper, I'm using for the card base, we're using Smoky Slate. Then I have 2 pieces of Melon Mambo. I have a piece of our basic white. Then I've cut that designer series paper, and then you'll notice that I have a die cut piece of the basic white, and I've used the largest die from the Stylish Shapes dies. In the description of this video, I will put all of the dimensions used, but this is your standard card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then the 2 panels of Melon Mambo are 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then the basic white, which is for the interior, as well as the front layering panel of the designer series paper. These are 3 3/4 by 5. And then the basic white, I believe, is like 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then just a scrap of the basic white to use for the toadstool on the front. So let's get started. It's been a couple weeks since I've done a video. My husband and I were on a bucket list trip, so I was gone out of the country for a couple weeks, and it's taken me a little bit longer than I anticipated to get back in the swing of things, but that's okay. So the first thing that we're going to do, let's go ahead and do our layers on our card base. So we're going to score or burnish along that score line. We're going to add our layering panels on the front. And as I mentioned, the basic white and then the other layering panel are for the card interior. It just gives your card that little extra touch when you do that. So we'll just grab our adhesive here and we'll glue our layers together. Tell you, my husband and our trip was actually to Antarctica, and we just had, as I said, that was a bucket list trip that we had planned several years ago, so it was nice to be able to experience that. But actually, it is summer in Antarctica, and the weather there was around freezing. It was very nice, but here in Georgia they had snow and sleet and colder temperatures than we experienced. And then we've come back, and now we've been having springtime weather. Trees are budding and so forth, but it's just our little teaser because it will soon turn cold again. So let's do our stamping now. So the stamps that we're going to need from the set, I'm using the Poppin Up to Say Hi stamp. That's the sentiment that I've opted to use. And then I'm using the middle-sized, well, actually, there's 4 different little individual toadstool caps. I'm using this second largest cap. And then I'm using the tri-level or 3-pieced stem that goes with the 3 little toadstools. And then, of course, the stem that we'll use for stamping the this stem for that particular toadstool. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull in my Smoky Slate. Let me move a couple things out of the way here. I'll put the card there so I can refer to it. So I'm going to ink up. I see a piece of glitter there that's stray. I'm not sure where that came from. I try to keep glitter to a minimum. And we're just going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment up toward the top of our pre-cut circle. And then we're going to go ahead and stamp, and let me just pull in a little scrap piece of white to slide up under, since I'm going to stamp off some. But I tell you, before I do that one, let me close this gray up, and let's go ahead and stamp our larger toadstool. I did find that having that together to place made it just a little bit simpler to determine where I wanted to place those. So I'm using Melon Mambo, ink that up good. And if you have one of the piercing mats, those are when you're using particularly a large image, but with the photopolymer, sometimes I like to use that because we do get a little bit better stamped impression. There we have that. Let's close this up. Well, actually, while I have it out, I'm going to go ahead and pull in an envelope and stamp that on the bottom of the envelope. Let me set that to the side. Oh, look what I just did. I'm going to wear that Melon Mambo. Let me wipe this off so I don't get it on anything else. I have a towel to the side so it's not wet, but at least I can wipe the damp ink off. I'm sure I'm not the first person that's done that, and of course I rocked and got a little ink there, but I'm not so concerned about it on the envelope, because by the time it gets through the mail, there'll be all sorts of different little marks and so forth on there. Well, I have just botched these. Good time, but that's all right. It is an envelope. So let's go back. And now I'm going to pull in our punch that goes with the bundle. And you'll notice, I may have to trim this. Yes, let me just trim it just a little. You'll notice when I slide this in here that the punch is actually designed to go just inside of the stamped image. This way, when you punch this, the entire area, as you'll see on my sample here, it doesn't have that white rim like you normally get with some punches and dies. So this worked out really good. And then this is the stem that we're going to be using. And I found it just as simple to go ahead and die cut it. And then we're going to come back with the stem stamp and stamp over it. We can do that, one, because this stem is larger than that piece, but you'll see how much rim is left. So that actually makes it very nice. Hopefully that will be a design that Stampin' Up! Continues with some of their images. But you'll see here how simple this is to just stamp right over that piece. And what we can do, we can just add a drop of glue to add the stem to the toadstool top. All it takes is a tiny drop. And we'll tuck that in there just as it would be in the toadstool. And we'll let that dry. But at least this will give us an idea. So we'll want to put that there. And I'm just laying it there. Looks like I have mercurochrome. Who else is of the era that when you were younger and you cut yourself, your mom or your dad put mercurochrome on that's what that looks like to me. So now I'm using Early Espresso. And I'm just going to stamp these stems for these 3 small toadstools. And I am going to also add that to the interior panel of my card. You could also put the same one, the larger toadstool, if you wanted, on the interior, but I decided I liked this with the 3. Next, we're bringing in our pumpkin pie. Line those up to stamp. Now, and you'll notice the stamp has, you can see the little lines, the circle where the white line is, so you can use that as your gauge for where to stamp and line those 3 up together onto the stems. So now we can finish assembling our card. Let me move my scrap that I like to stamp on out of the way. Pull in our toadstool that we're going to use dimensionals with. And I know I always overkill with the dimensionals. Then you can just take, for the stem, take one of the mini dimensionals, or you could just take one of the regular, but I have some mini dimensionals to the side, and we'll just place one on the stem there. I just think this is such cheerful paper and a fun little stamp set. Oops, I forgot to take the backing off. There we go. We have that. And then prior to putting this on the card front, I'm pulling in the baker's twine. This is the gray. It's the gray granite. But, I mean, it is so close to Smoky Slate that it works perfect. And I actually used about 24 inches of the baker's twine. And what we're going to do, this is just real simple. I put a little bit of adhesive in the middle, and then I'm just going to loop back and forth, pressing that down on the adhesive. To make our little loops. And then any excess, we'll just trim off that little excess at the that goes over the edge. And then we'll bring back our dimensionals. And we'll add dimensionals to the back of our main panel. And then we're just going to pop that right over that baker's twine. And that finishes the front of our card. It's just a real quick, simple card. It does make a nice little happy card to send to someone just to tell them hello. We'll finish the interior by putting the two layers together and adding that to the interior of our card. And once I'm through with this video, I will go back and then write up the description, put the dimensions that we've used and the inks and so forth. But of course, you can pick any of the inks or any of those papers from that gorgeous paper pack and use that as a guide. Here it is, this Toadstool Gardens, but as you see, there are a lot, just some bright colors. You could pull in the greens. There's a lot of different things that you could do. But there, it's Margaret Knight. Thanks for joining me, and I hope that you've enjoyed this quick, short little demonstration video on making our little Popping Up to Say Hi card. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.